Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson, here on the Maroon Friday edition of the Yard. No, we don't have a football game tomorrow, but we wear maroon on Fridays. It's a tradition that was started years ago. I don't know that it's really been maybe pushed or promoted the way that it should be, but it's Maroon Friday, and especially during football season, we should rep the brand. Just how it is. Got a big soccer game tonight I'll be covering. As a matter of fact, to ensure that I got to a high school game this week, I went to Nanawaya last night, watched them play McAdams. I kind of joked about that. There's no statue of Bart Gregory there, even though he is one of the most distinguished alums. I did meet his son there on the sidelines, kind of being a ball boy for the team. I'd say that it's a great environment there. I mean, the facilities are not tremendous, right? I mean, the fence is pretty close to the field, probably closer than most, and I'm surprised somebody hadn't said anything about that, but it's 1A football, But, man, I'd say just walking in there, had about a dozen people that come up and welcome me to town. Matter of fact, I'm walking through there, some members of the coaching staff said, "Hey, Steve, are you lost?" And it's like, "No, I'm here to see Grant Kitchens, And, man, they were so incredibly nice at Nanawaya. Everybody. I had people coming up to me. I'm on the sidelines, taking pictures and things like that. I didn't stay even the full first half because the game got out of hand, and I'm just there to see one guy, and I got everything I needed and got on back and started going, I think I had the article up before the game was over. But, man, what a great community. I've been through there before, but I never covered a game there before. I never went and spent some time on the sidelines there, and had some people come up and say, "Hey, I thought you were Kid Rock." Yeah, I get that sometimes. That or Rob Zombie or Jonathan Davis from Korn. Get that a lot. But I'm just Steve. But I was very impressed with the hospitality there. Truly was. And the kids from McAdams, put up the best fight they could. Not a lot of fan support over there, and that's disappointing to see. I mean, it is. I mean, it truly is. Because as we've mentioned before, it's not just about you seeing your kids play. It's them seeing you in the stands, supporting them to make them realize that what they do matters. Young people, and all people, but especially young people that are kind of going through their formative years, need to know that they matter. The things that they're passionate about are passionate to you. I think that's one thing that I won't be humble about it. I think that I have been a great father. I have done a lot of things over the years and to great sacrifice because that's what you do when you're mom and dad. You're a chauffeur, you're an ATM, there's so much that happens, but I did everything that I could to help my children's dreams come true. I did, without paving the way for them. You know what I'm saying? I didn't go lower the hurdles for them. I taught them how to jump the hurdles. Big difference. Big difference. There's a lot of people out there, they want to go out there and pave a path and that sort of stuff and, clear the brush and things like that. Guys, all rain and no sunshine makes a desert. And if all we ever do is teach our kids that it's sunshining all the time, what are they going to do when that storm rolls in and we're not there to help them? And speaking of storms, our thoughts and prayers go out to all these people, man, in the Carolinas and in East Tennessee, man, that are dealing with some stuff that is just catastrophic. And listen, and I know some people are making fun of the AI pictures that have kind of made the rounds. Let me tell you this. It's bad form to make those pictures, and it's bad form to make fun of those pictures because I think it kind of comes off as like we're trying to minimize what's happening out there, and I think that's wrong. You're like, oh, that this picture's fake. Does that make the loss of life any easier to deal with? There are people's lives that have been ruined. And we're going to argue on Facebook about a meme? Are you kidding me? Get a reality check, man. It's ridiculous. Hundreds of people have died. And I've seen some videos out there of, some old people just kind of hunkered down and said, hey, we'll make it. And I saw a thing the other day, an older lady in her 80s. Widow, her stayed in her cabin trying to protect her belongings and ended up, the cabin kind of gave way from the foundation and she had to flee and she jumped in the river and thankfully she had a life jacket on and another man jumped out there and went and got her and saved her. And you see these things out there, it makes you understand that we live a very precarious existence. Anything could happen. Anything. But all of a sudden things get, social mediaized, and all of a sudden that becomes a discussion. Arguing about that stupid picture, man. I think it's disrespectful. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe. There's some that may adopt that line of thinking, but I'll tell you this, that when I see what's happening to those people out there, it's something that is very, very, very concerning. And I got some friends in the Carolinas. I've been checking on them and say, hey, just making sure you guys are good, because you never know what's going to happen. I'm not going to get into the politics behind it all and things like that, and how this relief effort's been handled and all that kind of stuff. But I just think to myself, what if we were in this situation? What if it was us? What if it was our homes that were destroyed and our lives that were torn apart, and sadly our loved ones that had passed away? Those are the things that I think about. You have some empathy for those people. I think it's an important aspect of life. But I also see too that they're kind of getting some internet service set up, and people can communicate. And I love seeing those pictures too about people being found. So don't try to tell me those are fake. There's a Facebook page that's kind of set up for missing people, and they're kind of sharing when they find them. And a lot of it, people have been okay. They just haven't been able to communicate with people. And so kind of like how Katrina was. And I don't want to chase this rabbit trail very long, but I remember live in Louisiana when all that stuff happened with Katrina. We had a lot of kids that come up and came to our high school because theirs was destroyed in New Orleans. Living in shelters, and sleeping on a cot every night, and then riding a bus to school every day. And we expected them to have a normal existence. And there was a baseball player that played for me, and his sister ran track for us, and they didn't know where mom was. Yeah, they're coming to school every day. No clue if their mom is alive or dead. Those things are incredible to think about. Now, thankfully, what had happened is they had gotten separated, and Damon and his sister got on a bus to Baton Rouge, and his mom had gone to see about her sister, and they ended up on a bus to San Antonio. And so no cell phone service. No, you didn't have a cell phone. Everybody's trying to get a hold of each other. And thankfully, the Red Cross was able to kind of connect everybody, and we got her back to Baton Rouge. And but those were some anxious days. So I encourage you. Let's not just scroll through there and just say, what a shame. If you can help, I encourage you to do so. Hey, let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company, longtime sponsors of this show, man. And I love them. I have been a fan of them since they opened. I think Brian Haydad and I were probably among their first maybe 1,000 customers. Probably not even that many. We were there like day 2, I think. And it was great. And I remember thinking, Brian looked at me and said, yeah, this place is going to make it. And they have. And it's become a destination. It's not just part of the journey. It is a destination. When you're thinking about a great night out with friends or family, the opportunity to have an adult beverage, or perhaps a little business meeting, maybe an interview or something like that, or just a date night. Bulldog Burger Company can accommodate you. Get the spring rolls as your appetizer. They'll make you and everybody around you better looking. Get that great restaurant quality hamburger. I still kind of been on a smokehouse kick. It's every so often I think, well, this may be waning. No. Still getting the smokehouse. Find your own favorites there. The great restaurant quality hamburger is one of the fine delicacies we afford ourselves in life. So don't cheat yourself. When you're craving a burger, go to Bulldog Burger Company. And maybe everybody else is craving the burger and you're just kind of along for the ride and say, you know what, Steve, I think I want something a little bit different. Well, the menu is very diverse. I love that BLT salad. I get it grilled. You may like it fried. I love those Sloppy Joe sliders. And I joke with Mike Nemeth. When Mike and I go, he will get the entire order of spring rolls himself. Of course, Mike's aging a little bit, so he needs a few more spring rolls than the rest of us, And Mike's my friend. I'm not being silly. I am being silly. But the reality of it is it's a great place to go put your feet under their table and just kind of let them take care of everything. Just kind of get waited on, right? 3 great locations to serve you: University Drive in Stark Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, Lake Harbor Drive in the Ridge and Flowood area. And get that chocolate shake to go and ride that ride home with a smile. You'll be glad you did. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet. M-E-A-T. Okay, as you know, the Bulldogs not playing on the football field this weekend. There are half dozen games. And 5 of those 6 pit SEC teams against others. There's a couple teams that are off this week, including us. We'll get ready for the stretch run. Get ready to head over to Georgia. Our brunch game is Missouri at Texas A&M. I've got a funny feeling about this game. It's a funny feeling. Missouri is a team that we talked about. They're a veteran team. They got a couple of years now in the Drinkwitz offense under their belts. Got a veteran quarterback that nobody ever talks about, Brady Cook. I don't know what it is about Missouri. I guess it's because they're kind of, they're like our cousins that we only see at Thanksgiving, right? So you don't ever think about it. It's funny how that works. But Mizzou is at A&M. A&M minus 2.5. And there are a lot of people that think Missouri's just going to go in there and just run over these guys. And I don't know that I believe that. And so I'm going to pick A&M at home in a bit of an upset. I know what the line says, but you got the number 9 team in the country playing the number 25 team in the country. And I think Elko and those guys, too, maybe have figured a few things out on defense. And so it'll be interesting. Now, I think this may be one of those games that whoever wins the first quarter wins. It may be as simple as that. We're going to play the full 4, but you understand what I'm saying. There's just you can kind of tell who's got it figured out and who doesn't. And I think at home at Kyle Field, even though it's 11 a.m., that is a crowd that can kind of take over a ball game. You just need them a reason to get excited. And I think A&M will probably be able to do that. Auburn at Georgia. Things are not going well on the Plains. And honestly, I know Hugh Freeze and I have a history here. Okay, I wish no ill will towards Hugh Freeze, but somebody somewhere needs to prep him before these pressers. These conversations about how, we're farther along than I thought we'd be. I don't know that that's a shared vision, with the fan base. I think everybody thought, well, last year will kind of be, the adjustment year, and then next year will be better, and then you look up and you're not. It's always interesting to me. Georgia, obviously, got off to a slow start last week against Alabama. It was, 30-7. They come roaring back and take the lead and then lose the game. We talked about that on Monday's show, but I think Georgia back at home against an Auburn team that is still having some quarterback problems is a lot to ask. Georgia's favored by 22, and I'm going to take Georgia in the points. I think Georgia's going to run over Auburn. And I think a lot of it, too, is because I think Georgia, went on the road last week and played Alabama, and a lot of people, including myself, thought even though Alabama's a really good team, but Georgia is going to find a way to go win that ball game. Well, you can ill afford another loss. I think you see a very focused Georgia team come out this week, and I think they're going to take this game. And, Auburn last year should have beat Georgia. People forget that. Auburn had every opportunity to win that game, and I don't mean just because we played the game. Late in the ball game, it really felt like Auburn was going to upset Georgia. And this is one of my favorite rivalries in the Southeastern Conference. I love being able to watch this game, and I'll watch it on Saturday. I'm looking forward to this game. I just think Georgia, from personnel standpoint, can match up with those Auburn wide receivers and kind of make things interesting. I would not be surprised if Auburn loses the turnover battle substantially. Ole Miss at South Carolina. What do we make of the Rebels? I know a lot of Mississippi State folks have had some fun at their expense this week. I have peeked over at the Ole Miss message board once. I don't go over there very often, but I do. It is one of the guilty pleasures in life. When they lose, I do like to go read over there. But I didn't have time. I'm a very busy person. I don't have the time to just kind of sit around. It's all I can do to keep my own message board, up to date. But I did kind of peek over there. And, to be fair, Ole Miss still controls their own destiny. A lot of people are like, yeah, but Steve, no, seriously. I mean, this is a good Ole Miss team. And they got caught up in the weird Mark Stoops experience last week. And one of the bigger wins that Kentucky's had in a bit, But remember, South Carolina just destroyed Kentucky in Lexington. Destroyed them. Williams-Brice is a very difficult place to play. And I think most of us will agree South Carolina should have won the game against LSU. This is a huge game for Shane Beamer, and it's a huge game for Ole Miss. And one of the things that I go back to, and again, this is a very good Ole Miss team. But sometimes there are some teams and some programs and some coaches that kind of believe their headlines. It's like, hey, we expect to be really good, and then everybody else says, hey, you're going to be good. And then you start thinking, well, we're good because everybody says we're good. And sometimes you just got to go be good. So I think it's going to be a wild game, and I think Ole Miss may actually win this thing, but I'm taking South Carolina in the points. I think if Ole Miss wins, it's going to be a close ball game. I think South Carolina will be ready to play. I think that is one of those things, when I look at the Shane Beamer experience there, he's lost some games that he shouldn't. He's won some games that he shouldn't too. And it's pretty crazy to kind of go back and kind of look at this, the way the schedule works. The South Carolina Gamecocks are 3-1. And many of you, like me, if we were to vote today, we'd all say, you know what? South Carolina won that game against LSU, and maybe it was taken from them. At the end of the day, the score is the score. But South Carolina could easily be 4-0 and ranked right now. It's true. And I'm telling the truth. And so is this South Carolina team capable of beating Ole Miss? You better believe they are. And we're going to look at some injury stuff before we move on. But I look at the schedule for South Carolina. I really thought that they were going to be in trouble this year. Again, they're 3-1, and they also have the the benefit of the open date. Did you consider that? Last week, Ole Miss loses an emotional game to Kentucky where they were kind of taken out of their game, and in South Carolina has had 2 weeks to prepare. And in many respects, 3 weeks, because they played the Akron Zips, the Fighting Joe Moorheads, back on the 21st. So they have had plenty of time to scheme up Ole Miss and then kind of tweak some things. So, again, we're going with South Carolina in the points, but I think there's a real chance Ole Miss loses this game. And then all of a sudden things really go off the rails. And you've seen some people out there call them front runners. That is one of the things that I have said that is kind of prevalent within their culture. When you punch Ole Miss in the mouth, on or off the field, they tend to wilt. It's just kind of something within the culture up there. And they won't like me saying that, but those that are honest with themselves will admit that's the case. All right, Alabama's at Vanderbilt. Guys, I remember when Alabama used to get Vanderbilt every year. I'm old enough to remember that. Maybe you are too. Alabama always got Vanderbilt, it seemed. That was one like a permanent opponent for them. Poor Vanderbilt, right? And it's so crazy, too, how the schedule thing works. People ask me, Steve, how does this thing work, the schedule rotation? Well, they told us last year they kind of based it on how things have gone, But it's pretty crazy. So looking back here, now the current streak of wins in the record books is 12 consecutive for Alabama. And the reason that it is because they had to forfeit the 93 game. But on the field, Alabama has not lost to Vanderbilt since 1984. It has been 40 years since Vanderbilt beat Alabama on the field. And these games have not been close. I mean, like 55-3, 59-0. It's been an embarrassment. 1996, they had a nail-biter, 36-26. A couple years there was pretty competitive. But it has not been good. And so they went in 84, and the last win before that was in 1969. So in 55 years, Vanderbilt has beaten Alabama twice. And it's not going to happen this year either. It's not. Alabama's favored by 22.5. We're going to take Alabama and the points. Alabama, obviously, right now, an absolutely outstanding team. And you got to give DeBoer some credit. I mean, I really thought that it would be 10-2, maybe 9-3, depending on how things shake out. Alabama hadn't missed a beat. A lot of people think Jalen Milroe's the favorite to win the Heisman. There's a young man up there in Colorado may have something to say about that. But, yeah, we'll take Alabama and the points here. Tennessee at Arkansas. And I'm so glad this is a primetime game. You know, because I get home, right? There's just something about being at your place. You know, because you can, if you need to take a nap, you can. And there's drinks in the fridge. You know, you don't have to wait in line to go to the bathroom, that kind of stuff. I like being able to watch. If it's not a Mississippi State game, I'd rather just kind of be at home in my own surroundings. I'm looking forward to this one. It's going to be on ABC and ESPN+. It's Tennessee at Arkansas. Tennessee is favored by 13.5 on the latest lines, and I like this Tennessee offense. I have been a hype fan from the beginning. And I remember, as soon as he got there, all of a sudden he ignited that offense, and people were like, wow, this was unexpected. Well, it shouldn't have been. It shouldn't have been. But perhaps to some people it was. Tennessee is back, right? They truly are. And I think they've been overshadowed in many respects because of the Georgia thing, right? I mean, Georgia's had this historic run, and I think some people are looking at this Tennessee team, and they're like, they're pretty good. It's cute. These guys will hurt you, man. You know what's interesting, too? Tennessee and Arkansas have only played 19 times in their history. Tennessee leads the series 13-6, and they've won the last 3 meetings. Last time Arkansas got a win was in 2007. Yeah, 2007. Is that right? No, that's incorrect. I'm reading it wrong. Arkansas has won 3 in a row. Yeah. Tennessee last won in 2007. My mistake. I'm getting old. But, yeah, that was back in 2020, you know, the first year of the Sam Pittman tenure there. But, yeah, not so frequent opponents. You know, when you begin to think about that, you know, they've only played a handful of times last decade. And Kentucky, I mean, Arkansas's won them all. And so, but again, 13-6. So 4 of the last 5 have favored Arkansas. And all of those but one, 3 of those 4 wins have been in Fayetteville. So I expect Arkansas to put up a fight. But I just think this Tennessee offense is just simply too good. I don't know that you look up and they're 4th in the country, but it's like, I don't know that they're getting enough hype, to be honest with you. Pardon the pun. They're favored by 13.5. I take them. I just think Arkansas is in a bad situation here. And I had a discussion with someone else in the Southeastern Conference this week. I said, hey, what do you think is going to save Sam's job up there? I like Sam Pittman. And, of course, he's not my coach because, familiarity breeds contempt. Mike Leach was our coach. And we had some people that couldn't stand him. And then all of a sudden, Coach passes away. And we find out that he was America's coach. Everybody loved Mike Leach. And what's so interesting? I saw some people, like shortly after Coach died, some people had some negative things to say about that. Some people need to go sit down and talk to somebody. But when you look at this Arkansas schedule, they have gotten through a lot of things. They got one non-conference game left down the stretch, but you start looking at this thing and you start realizing Arkansas, they're 3-2 right now, and everybody's talking really good about them because Petrino had that offense rolling. Last couple of weeks, offense hadn't been great. You open up with that 70-0 win over Pine Bluff, and you lose a double overtime game against Oklahoma State, and you had that game in hand and you mismanaged it on offense. You played UAB. That was a tussle too. I mean, it was only a 37-27 game. You did get the win at Auburn, and a lot of that too was going to be the ineptitude of the Auburn quarterback position. You go play A&M last weekend at Arlington, and you lose 21-17. Well, now you got Tennessee. And Tennessee could sure enough score. And then you host LSU, and lately, during the Sam Pittman era, that's been a weird game. It's like been a battle of field goals. Then you come to Mississippi State. Then you host Ole Miss. Then Texas. And then Louisiana Tech, which should be a win. Then you got to go to Missouri. And that has not been a good destination for Arkansas in recent years. And you start working through this, and you begin to ask yourself, okay, Steve, are there 3 wins left on the schedule? And that's a very modest expectation, right? You're 3-2 now. To get bowl eligible, are there 3 more wins? Well, I don't know that we expected them to go to Auburn and win. So maybe there's a surprise out there, but I'll just tell you right now, they're going to have a tough time with Tennessee and Texas for sure, right? Those are 2 of the top 5 teams in the country. You never know what's going to happen with this LSU group, and it's in Fayetteville. They got to come to Mississippi State. At this point, I think most people would pick Arkansas to win that game. If we go out and play like we did against Texas, we're going to beat Arkansas. I think the only sure win that you would say is Louisiana Tech. And then there's some toss-up games in there. But there are games like Tennessee, LSU, Ole Miss, and Texas. I think those are going to be difficult games to win. So it puts Arkansas in a situation where you got to win at Mississippi State, home against Louisiana Tech, and then beat Missouri, unless you upset somebody to be bowl eligible. So it's like, as fun as it's been in the early going, you look at the schedule and you start thinking, is 6-6 enough to save his job? I'm going to say no. Is 7-5 enough to save his job? I'm going to say probably not, unless it's maybe the last 4. Right? Like if you find a way to knock off Ole Miss, Texas Tech, and Missouri, you close out on a 4-game winning streak, I think, people are like, okay, we kind of got it settled, right? And not to mention, Green is such a fragile young man. I mean, I say fragile. Maybe that's not the right description. He's kind of thinly framed, and you're going to run him as much as they do. Hey, Bulldog fans, are you fantasy enthusiasts? A lot of people are. I remember those days when we used to do it all by hand and have to wait to the next day to read the box scores to find out who won. Well, Prize Picks does all that work for you. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. That's right. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and just watch your winnings roll in. You can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Just 4, right? And Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as just 15 minutes. How cool is that? You can have fun. It's a very simple way to play. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code BONEYARD, and you get $50 instantly when you play just $5. That's promo code BONEYARD on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you just play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your own game. How cool is that? Be sure to use the promo code BONEYARD when you download the Prize Picks app. Bulldog fans, if you know me, you know I like a free meal. I like a promo code. I like a great deal. I like to save money whenever I can. But here's the thing. I'm not going to go parade over a bed of hot coals with a pair of gasoline-soaked boxer shorts on to get a deal. It's got to be easy for me, right? And so when Mint Mobile said, hey, we'd love to partner with you guys and give wireless service for just $15 a month, I said, there's no way that's going to work, right? You got to purchase a 3-month plan. I said, you know what? It didn't make any sense to me. It turns out it's really that easy to get wireless service for $15 a month. The longest part of the process is probably going to be the time you spend on hold canceling your other provider. To get started, go to mintmobile.com/boneyard. There you'll see that right now, all 3-month plans are just $15 a month, including the unlimited plan. How cool is that? Again, new customer offer, your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month. Go to mintmobile.com/boneyard. That's mintmobile.com/boneyard. Cut your wireless bill to just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/boneyard. There's a $45 upfront payment required. That's equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on the first 3-month plan only. Speeds are slower than above 40 gigabytes on the unlimited plan, and additional taxes, fees, and restrictions may apply. For more information, visit mintmobile.com/boneyard. You may run yourself into an injury situation, but it's going to be interesting. But yeah, Tennessee, I think Tennessee wins convincingly. Central Florida is at Florida. I don't know if you kept up with this. Florida, of course, had the open date last week. I think everybody was like, well, this is interesting. This is interesting. Central Florida's coming in there. And, guys, I'm going to take Gus. I'm taking the Gus bus to roll over there. And I think Central Florida's a good team. I think Central Florida can score. They're 3-1. They lose the game against Colorado at home. And that's kind of a crazy game. And now you get to go to the Swamp. The pressure is all on Florida. And how interesting is it that the Gators are a 2-point dog at home to a G5 team? Well, I guess they're not a G5 team anymore, but it's still going to take some time to get accustomed to that. I like Central Florida. I'm taking Central Florida. And I think that the Florida Gator Nation is going to be really wound up after this one. Maybe they start chasing Gus Malzahn. A lot of people think they want to go get Lane Kiffin. And that's one thing people said, too. Like, it's so funny, too. Everybody's like, Lane Kiffin, Lane Kiffin, Lane Kiffin, Lane Kiffin. And then they lose to Kentucky, and everybody's like, oh, I'm off the bandwagon with Lane Kiffin. He's the same coach he's always been. He just lost a game. Could Lane win at Florida? Yeah, I think so. Guys, they're in position to win 10 games for the third straight year, right? So Lane Kiffin's a good coach, and it's okay to admit that. And so if you're Florida, even if Ole Miss doesn't meet expectations, which they would never meet their own expectations, but like if they miss the playoff this year, you still go hire Lane Kiffin. You do. Why would you not? If you can get him, you go get him. And I think if you're Lane Kiffin, if you can't get to the playoff this year, or you can't do anything of significance this year, you probably got to think, it's not going to happen here. No matter how much they pay me, and how much they spend in NIL, and how much they come out here and promote, it's just not going to happen. You got to think, Lane. There were a lot of coaches out there that came before you that never got to Atlanta. They never won the SEC West. I know they hung a little banner up there when they were, co-champs of the West, but they sat at home and watched the SEC title game on television. And so you kind of begin to ask yourself, and this is a sore subject with your Ole Miss friends and fans, you begin to ask yourself, are they, even in the best of times, they hadn't been quite good enough. But, we're taking Central Florida. All right, time for today's Top 10 list. As always, brought to you by closewithblair.com. That's CLOSE with Blair, BLAIR.com. You can find all the services that are available to you there. But let me give you a more direct way to contact Blair. If you're looking for a mortgage, or perhaps you need to refinance a mortgage, looking for that game day condo, looking for your first home, maybe life's thrown you a curveball, and you've got to... you got to have life reset, right? You need to have somebody to help you with the heavy lifting, and that's Blair Chandler with his 23 years of experience in the mortgage industry. 601-500-2344. Again, 601-500-2344. That goes directly to Blair. Not a call center, not a receptionist. That's his personal cell number. Yeah. Recently made the move to Priority One Mortgage, and the same level of service went with him. He will be your advocate with underwriting. No questions about it. Blair Chandler, my friend, your friend, our collective friend in the mortgage industry. All right, top 10 songs. And I decided, I'm in a pretty good mood today. I really wasn't on Wednesday. And I want to thank so many of you. You guys are awesome, man. Honest to goodness, you are awesome. And a lot of times I get on here and I talk about things that are somewhat personal and somewhat transparent. And some of you don't like that, and that's okay, But I have many people reach out and say, hey, man, Steve, sorry for your loss. And here's the thing, too. I have not had any romantic feelings about her in a long, long time. We're talking decades. But the reality of it is, I gave her a piece of my heart way back in 1991, and I never asked for it back. And I think when you truly care about somebody, you leave a part of yourself with them, and you carry a part of them with you forever. And to be honest with you, there's some of those pieces that I've dropped off along the way I wish I had back, But that wasn't one of them. And, we didn't have a bad breakup or anything like that. There was no big incident or anything like that. My life was off the rails. But nevertheless, I had people reach out and say, hey, Steve, man, I know, listen, I know you're happily married now, but I know it's got to suck a little bit. That somebody that you once cared about is gone under such circumstances, and that's absolutely the truth. And so thank you guys. I had several messages from you guys. I didn't expect that, and I appreciate that. But yeah, I'm in a good mood, and we move forward with life. We don't have much choice, right? We really don't, And there are so many times in my life, it's like you just feel like giving up, right? You know what I'm saying? It's like all the pressure gets to you, and it's like, oh, I've got to get this done and that done. And it can be overwhelming. It can be, but you got to get up and keep moving forward. Get up and keep moving forward. One thing that I do is make a list of all the stuff that's giving me stress, and about once every couple months I go through and get all that stuff done. It's a de-stressor day. Yeah, when I was in retail management, I used to have those make people nervous days. Write down all the things that my staff was doing or not doing, and I would address all that stuff too and get it off my plate and get it onto theirs. Because I don't pay anybody enough to be a jerk, But, thanks so much for your support. I love all you guys, too. I don't want anybody that you love, including you, to die with substance abuse. And it's so crazy, too. It's like, nowadays, there's so much fentanyl out there in narcotics. It's like, what people used to think was safe is not. Yeah, you got to be careful. You're playing Russian roulette with drugs. Drugs will kill you. Drugs will kill you. And as I've shared before, I thought I was too smart. I thought, what, I can handle it. I'm smart. I'm intelligent. I can handle it. I know how far, but that's kind of what happens, man. It's like when the demons kind of get their claws in you, man, they'll pull you down to hell with them. And so don't volunteer for that nonsense. And if you're a person that's already drinking and drugging too much, man, get help. It's true. And if you're a person that deals with, anxiety, depression, or suicidal thoughts, you don't have to live this way anymore. Dial 988. It's a free call. You can text if calling's not available, and get some help for yourself. I want you guys to make it because we're going to win an AFL championship and something else at some point soon. And I want you to be able to celebrate that with us. I truly do. I truly do. And life is difficult at times, and it happens to all of us. You are not alone, and I can be honest with you. I think I speak for all of us when I say none of us think we're enough. That's important to understand. Yeah, so sometimes we die from terminal uniqueness. It's like I'm the only person that's ever dealt with this. I'm the only person that's ever had a divorce. I'm the only person that's ever been cheated on. I'm the only person that's ever lost a job. I'm the only, it's like intellectually you know these things, but that little voice in your head starts telling you, oh, it's you, man. You're just this piece of trash, man. You're never going to amount to anything. That's what happens. And so you got to reprogram that self-talk. You do. So let's celebrate Friday today. And again, it is Maroon Friday. And so it's a top 10 songs about Friday. And I don't know if we've ever done this before. It's kind of an obvious topic. And I hit up the youngest, Ian, who just celebrated his 2-year anniversary of working for Bulldog Burger Company. And I'm going to tell you this, it's his dad. It impresses me that a guy at his age has been at one employer for 2 years. Says a lot about Bulldog Burger Company, but says a lot about him too. He's been there for 2 years. And so when he gets ready to apply for jobs and that kind of stuff, it's like, hey, this is a guy that stays. I think he told me that he is the 5th longest tenured employee there. It's not in management. That's a cool thing too. And Bulldog Burger Company is kind of a part of the culture of our state now. But here we go. And Ian nailed number 1. He goes, hey, you've got to have this on your top 10 list. Because he asked me what I was. He sent me, real quickly, Bulldog Burger Company yesterday. They were talking about rock music, and somebody turned him on to Velvet Revolver. So he hits me up. He goes, hey, Dad, do you like Velvet Revolver? I said, you kidding me? Slither is one of my favorite songs of all time. So we start talking about that, and he goes, hey, I've been involved in this other band for about a year. I love them, and they were a big band when I was in college myself. So it kind of rewards me a little bit, I guess, for being a good parent. And he goes, hey, this song's got to be on there. I said, dude, they're number one. I may be giving it away there. Number 10, a song that I really like. And a lot of you guys know the great song, I Believe in a Thing Called Love. And it's kind of like a little bit of a parody of the 80s, because he has the big falsetto. And it is an amazing song. It's one of those songs. And the band The Darkness, even though the name is kind of foreboding, they're just kind of a good time in band. And so they have a great track called Friday Night. And then Katy Perry didn't make our list. But The Darkness is Friday Night. It's just a up-tempo, happy song. And so maybe if you need your mood turned around a little bit, maybe put that on, The Darkness, Friday Night. Number 9, going back to the back in the days when I was still in diapers, it's David Bowie's Friday on My Mind. It's going to be a very diverse list, too. We're going to go through different genres. We're going to go through different decades. It's going to be a great list. David Bowie's Friday on My Mind. Probably a little more of an obscure track than most people don't. People got to know him in the MTV generation. They forget the fact that he was Ziggy Stardust before all that stuff. Number 8, one of Dave Murray's favorite bands. They make our list. It's Steely Dan's Black Friday. I love the guitar on this one. I do. And those guys were so technically proficient as musicians. And they were kind of the band's band, like a musician's band. And even like if you go back and see these interviews with their contemporaries, people are like, hey, that's a band that I really love. It's Steely Dan's Black Friday. Number 7, we're going to skip around here a little bit. These guys are recently announced they're getting back together. They're going to go on tour. Some of you country music fans are really excited about that, as the Life is the Highway tour is maybe coming to a town near you. That's right, it's Rascal Flatts. And we're going to go with their song Friday. We're going to celebrate that. Rascal Flatts, they've had some they've had some very emotional songs, but a lot of them are just kind of good time and stuff too, right? But God Bless a Broken Road. It's one of the most profound songs of my lifetime. Love those guys, man. Not really my thing, but I get it. Number 6, I had to throw this one in here, even though the name of the title of the song is not what's remembered for. It's part of the lyrics, but I remember when this thing came out. Man, the R&B and rap jams from back in the day were amazing, and thanks so much for your feedback about the 90s dance list. But we're going Johnny Camp's Just Got Paid. Of course, it was covered again by NSYNC. Just Got Paid, it's Friday night. Party's jumping, feeling right. I remember those Friday nights in high school. It's like you could not wait. Like a school night, you couldn't get out and do a whole lot, But man, when Friday came, you could get out and go to a high school football game and ride around town with your friends, talk to girls, get numbers, get good stuff. Maybe, be involved in some things maybe you shouldn't. But, Friday was great because you'd stay out late. I think my curfew was midnight until I was a senior. I think that's right. But then you could sleep late on Saturday unless you had ball to play or something. But I remember when this song got out, and we're all working kind of part-time jobs and things like that. And Friday night came, you had a little money in your pocket, and you could get out and go do some fun stuff. You could ride over to Hattiesburg and go to Cloverleaf Mall and go into Camelot Music and pick up some CDs or tapes. You go to that food court, eat some Sbarro. It was great, man. We were Southern Pimp Kings, man. We loved it. All right, number 5, changing the mood a bit here. This is not a good timing song, but it is a rocking song. And it's off the great album, Peace Sells, But Who's Buying? It's Megadeth's Good Morning Black Friday. And morning spelled with the U, Good Morning Black Friday. Anytime we can work Megadeth, then that's a good thing too. And we're going to follow that up with Ice Cube. How about that? This run to the finish is going to be all over the map. And I love it. I love it. I love Ice Cube. Now, Ice didn't have Ice Cube, because when we say Ice, we're thinking Ice-T. Ice Cube, lyrically, was at a different level than most people. And his delivery as an MC maybe wasn't as fast or have the flow that a lot of others, but like when Ice Cube said something, you feel like he meant it. And now he does family movies and things like that. Straight Outta Compton. Pretty crazy stuff with Ice Cube. But, love Ice Cube. Love the Friday series, too. They're hilarious. And if you've never watched them, you owe it to yourself. Maybe this weekend kind of binge those movies. You'll be glad you did. They're incredible. Most people, even the people that used the euphemism, "Bye, Felicia," years ago, didn't know where that came from. But we know because we're cool. Number 3, and I told you we're jumping around a little bit, it's George Jones. It's finally Friday. Be broke by Monday. Man, I remember being a kid, waking up Friday morning, going to school, WFFF. And, of course, Glenn and Ronnie probably talked too much, but they would play a little rendition of this. It's finally Friday from George Jones. It takes me back to my youth. But this is one of those songs that just kind of stands up, man. It does. George Jones, a legend in American music. And this is a song, too, that I think has stood the test of time. Number 2. And I play this song, and I even post it sometimes on social media every year before Easter. I'm a Black Crowes freak. I have all their albums. I remember when Jealous Again came out, when Shake Your Moneymaker dropped, and I saw those guys, and I was like, you know what, this band's a little different. They're a little bit different. These guys are the real deal. Chris Robinson has proven to be the real deal in a lot of different respects, but it's Good Friday. Because I will not forget you, but nor will I accept the blame. I love that track, man. I have for a long time. It's about a breakup, and supposedly it was about Kate Hudson. I think that's right. But number 1, as correctly guessed by Ian Robertson, it's The Cure's Friday, I'm in Love. And isn't that a great thing to be able to say? But what's funny about this song is The Cure. Like when you listen to the Disintegration album, like Fascination Street and all that stuff, Pictures of You, it's incredible stuff. But they were criticized for always being kind of morose and a little bit depressive and things like that. And it's like, hey, you never write anything up-tempo or anything happy. And they wrote this song kind of sarcastically and gave it to the record company because it's completely different than anything else they've done. But I tell you this, the intricate nature of the guitar on this is just absolutely beautiful. It's beautiful. And they wrote it sarcastically, but of course, Robert and those guys have pride in what they do. It ends up being a huge hit for them. And it's unlike anything else in the catalog. Friday, I'm in Love. That's your number 1 track today. And I hope that you are in love this weekend. And if you're not, maybe you should be. Maybe you could be. Let's not give up on life, kids. Many of you have gone through something traumatic in your midlife and you think life is over. I'm suggesting to you that it's not. It's pretty easy for me to say sometimes, but I can tell you that life is what you make it. And I don't mean that in the Joe Dirt way, right? Life's a garden, dig it. Love the Joe Dirt classics. But the reality of it is that we have a lot to look forward to in life. And even when life beats you down, you got to get up and keep rolling. You just got to keep going. And I posted some randoms today about my old girlfriend from 3 decades ago, and over on Facebook. And I appreciate those that have commented on that. I am a person that heals by communicating, so it makes me, I think, a good podcaster. But I get the opportunity to speak about recovery a lot, and it's like the thing that I have learned is the journey is still going, right? Even though I've been clean and sober now, almost 12,000 consecutive days. And it's pretty remarkable. It is. And I'll take some credit for that, but there were a lot of people along the way that have helped me. And nobody recovers alone, no matter what anybody tells you. But I never know when I'm going to get a reminder about something, about how life matters and how fragile life truly is. And this is one this week that I wasn't expecting to get. I knew that she had passed away back in 2021. And I suspected back then, I thought to myself, because I knew her. Of course, I hadn't known her in forever. But I knew who she was at her core, and I knew that she had had some trauma in her life. And I thought to myself, I hope it's not drug-related. I hope it's not drug-related. I know that she had gone through a divorce, and, she'd kind of bounced around a little bit. And that was my fear, But at the end of the day, it all means the same thing, and that's gone, right? But I hope that whatever is wrong in your life, you find a way to get it fixed, whether that be through the church, that be through a 12-step organization, or through therapy. There's no point in living life regretting getting up every day and feeling like you have nothing to look forward to. And we need to take some ownership of that, okay? We can't just sit back and be victims, right, of our own decisions. And maybe you've wrecked your life. Maybe you have. I did. Fortunately, I did it young enough that we didn't have social media, and things didn't spread like wildfire back then. But I ruined it. But my life didn't end that day. My life is still going. And so no matter what you're going through, or what you've gone through, what you feel like has shaped you in a negative way for the rest of your life, there can be a sense of healing and recovery from that. And I hope that you find it. But if we continue to do the things that we've always done, we will always get back and return to things we've always gotten, except in the end, they begin to kind of lose their value to us. And so it's good to have something in life to look forward to. You don't want to lead an accidental life. You don't. I love each and every one of you. All right, next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart, a Starkvillian institution. Man, I love Campus Bookmart. I love going in there, looking around at all that stuff and imagine what it would look like in my closet or on my wall or in my house or office or on my vehicle. I'm sure you feel the same way. It's the best place to buy Mississippi State merchandise. It's right here in Starkville. We encourage you, as always, rather than go to Amazon or eBay or some place like that and you get some bootleg merchandise, buy the real deal from people that understand what true maroon looks like. That's Campus Bookmart. When you're in town, go by and see their smiling faces. You may even get a complimentary hug with your purchase. Maybe that's just me, but I love going in there, and you will too. If you can't make it to town, you can still support a great Starkville business by visiting them on the World Wide Web at campusbookmart.net. And by being a loyal Boneyard listener, we'll give you a phrase that pays, and that is BSR, which stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. That gets you free shipping on all orders over $75. Any order less than $75, absolutely incomplete. Again, that's campusbookmart.net. Let's take a quick look at the SEC injury reports. I've kind of grown to where I kind of like this. In the beginning, I wasn't sure, right? I think there's got to be a little bit of gamesmanship, but I have heard, kind of through some back channels that the gambling stuff was out of control. You'd have gamblers and people like that were contacting like managers and student assistants and things like that to try to get information about the availability of certain players. So the SEC is like, hey, we're just going to put it out there. All right, the Missouri versus Texas A&M game, not much for Missouri. They're going this thing pretty healthy here. Darius Smith, the defensive end, is out, and then backup quarterback Sam Horn is out. That should not impact Missouri at all. Wide receiver Marquise Johnson is questionable. Be a game-time decision. Texas A&M, Reuben Owens, running back, is out. Tyreek Chappell, defensive back, had some good games against Mississippi State. He is out. Mark Naboo Jr., offensive line, is out. TJ Shanahan, offensive line, is out. Connor Wegman, quarterback, is questionable. They've played a couple quarterbacks. They've been able to make some things happen with Marcel. Armaj Reed Adams is also questionable. So that's 3 offensive linemen, 2 out. So that could be a factor in the ball game. Almost got me rethinking my pick a little bit, but no, we're going with A&M. Auburn at Georgia. Auburn, 3 players out for them. Defensive back Tyler Scott and Champ Anthony both out, and tight end Brandon Frazier is out. The rest are listed as probable. Safety Jaron Thompson, Dorian Massey Jr., linebacker Jalen McLeod, linebacker Alex McPherson, the kicker, and then Xavier Miller, offensive line. So Auburn going to this thing with pretty good health, but the secondary, a couple guys out there, you begin to kind of wonder a little bit about that depth. Now, Georgia, their list of out players and potentially questionable and probable players is pretty much even here. You got Roderick Robinson, the running back, is out. Shmuel Mondon Jr., inside backer, out. Tate Ratledge, offensive lineman, out. And then Jordan Hall is questionable. He's a defensive line player there. And Mikael Williams, also DL, is probable. London Humphreys, receiver, is probable. Sokovie White is probable, and then Jared Wilson, offensive line, is probable. So both of those teams going into the game fairly healthy considering this time of year. Now, the most extensive injury report in the Southeastern Conference for the second consecutive week is Ole Miss. And maybe, and let's just kind of be honest about this, maybe Lane's just being more open than anybody else. Maybe. I can't really say. But they are doing a very detailed list. They have several players that are out. Cornerback Cedric Beavers, wide receiver Isaiah Hartrop, Devin Price, wide receiver, also out. Daniel Demery, linebacker, out. Logan Diggs, running back, out. Jaden Williams, offensive lineman. Cam East, former Mississippi State commitment. Cam East is out. Joshua Pfeiffer, wide receiver, is out. Hudson Wolf, tight end, is out. Of course, Priestcorn does most of the heavy lifting there. On the questionable list is defensive end Princely Umanamillion. I'm sure I've mispronounced that. TJ Daughtery, a linebacker. Lewis Moore, a safety. Caden Lee, a receiver. Henry Parrish Jr., the running back. Got a little bit banged up last week. JJ Pequez, defensive tackle. Feel like he's been there for 20 years. Offensive lineman Micah Pettis is out. Jeremy James is questionable. Jeremy James, offensive lineman, questionable. Akili Stone, defensive tackle, also questionable. Now, there's some others. Matt Jones, running back, is probable. A little bit banged up in the running back room. Antoine Wells Jr., wide receiver, is out. Micah Davis, wide receiver, probable. Trey Harris is probable. Trey Harris is going to play. The kid's a gamer. Chris Graves Jr., probable. And then Caden Priestcorn, the tight end, is probable. Priestcorn's going to play. Knowing what we know about him, the kid's going to play. The South Carolina list, just 5 players. Kelvin Hunter, DB, is out. Ja'Kai Moore, offensive lineman, is out. Rocket Sanders is probable. He was questionable earlier in the week. Jared Brown, wide receiver, is probable. And Lenora Sellers, quarterback, is probable. He was also listed as questionable. So based on these reports, Carolina is going into this game in a lot better shape physically than Ole Miss is. And again, going along with our pick, it's a tough place to play, and you're the more banged-up team coming off a difficult loss. Alabama's at Vanderbilt. Doesn't really matter, but we'll go through it. Wide receiver Kendrick Law is questionable for Alabama. Justin Jefferson, linebacker, is probable. They list no players as out. Vanderbilt, Zaylen Wood, defensive lineman. Corner Mark Davis and Grayson Morgan, all 3 are out. Boubacar Diakite, the edge, is questionable. And the remaining 4 players are probable. Loic Fowanoji, wide receiver, it's probable. Dante Carter, safety. Joseph McVay, wide receiver. And Corday Sidnor, is defensive lineman, is out. Probable. Vanderbilt has but they need a pronunciation guide for that roster for sure. All right, Tennessee and Arkansas. Tennessee, the healthier of the 2, but Tennessee has 4 players out. Defensive back Jordan Thomas, John Slaughter, defensive back, native of Mississippi, Edwin Spellman, linebacker, and then Montrell Bandy, defensive back. So the secondary a little bit beat up there. Arkansas, on the other hand, they have, 6 players that are out. Jalen Braxton, defensive back. Miguel Mitchell, defensive back. Rodney Hull, running back. He's a backup. Patrick Kudus, offensive line. Andreas Pasaki, tight end. Caffrey Brown, wide receiver, is out. And you start looking at this, you think about that secondary and how they're going to be challenged. Tight ends Ty Washington and Luke Haas are both questionable. And then Hudson Clark, who, again, has been there forever at DB, it's probable. Monty Harris, wide receiver, probable. So I don't know how you feel about these lists, but it's interesting to kind of see how everybody does it, right? It's like, do you want to put everything out there, or do you hold something back? And how is that policed? Is anybody held accountable for it? But yeah, I commend Lane Kiffin because it does seem that they're putting out the most detailed injury report. And at the end of the day, either guys play or they don't, right? They do. So it's interesting that we now have access to this information that we haven't had for years. And it was always, how many times would you see it on game day? All of a sudden, there's fluctuation in the line. You say, "Hey, Vegas knows something," and it was because of these reports. You find out on Friday this guy didn't travel or this guy's not going to play, and all that information was kind of clandestine. And so the SEC taking some steps to kind of prevent that from happening. So that's where things sit with those guys. And I think it'll be a fun weekend of football. And it's like when we don't have a game, sometimes it's easier to enjoy college football. Win or lose. Because if we lose, I don't even want to watch college football because I don't want to see our score flash across the bottom. The ticker, No worries with that this week as Bulldogs prepare to go take on Georgia. And your players, I think, were sent home Thursday after the team meeting. I think they were free for the rest of the weekend. Some of those guys will go home. Many of them will just stay here and work. Coaches are out recruiting all around the country. You're starting to see some reports of new offers going out for 2026 players. And State also up in the Kansas JUCO system and then heading down to Texas, too, for the weekend to watch some games. And so we'll probably have some new offers in the JUCO ranks here in the next week or two. And a lot of people continue to ask about the junior college stuff. But the reality of it is we got to get bigger, faster, stronger. We got to use every resource that's available to us. We can't just gamble and say, hey, we're going to go out here and just get kids out of the portal. We don't know who's going to be available in the portal and who's going to have return interest. And so it makes sense, even if we don't take these guys, you got to go recruit these guys. You got to make sure that you've got your needs met, right? That's an important aspect of every bit of this. All right, final segment of the show brought to you by the Stark Vegas Clubhouse, the best place to stay in the Golden Triangle. And you guys apparently are listening to me because I understand business is going well for the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. It has been one of Starkville's best kept secrets. It has been. Now it's not. The word's getting out. If you're bringing a large group to Starkville or the Golden Triangle for work or for pleasure, there's no better place to stay than a Stark Vegas Clubhouse. Now, Google the Stark Vegas Clubhouse, and their Facebook page will come up, and you can kind of peruse through the amenities that are available to you and your guests. Pictures are on the website. And here's a cool thing. You get a full-service kitchen. Get great appliances in there so you can go buy some groceries and you can kind of prepare meals if you need to, if that's what you want to do. It's funny how when mom and all the sisters get together, that's kind of what they want to do. Let's all get in the kitchen and cook and kind of trip over each other. That's how that works. You got that great wet bar. You got the back porch area. You got the fire pit out there. It's getting cooler at night, so it's a lot of fun to kind of sit around there, maybe have an adult beverage. I'll have a Diet Coke. But 5 bedrooms, 2 bath, just neatly positioned, just 5 minutes away from the Mississippi State campus. So convenient. You can do your tailgating right there, not have to worry with dragging all that stuff to campus and dragging it back. Right? It's part of the deal, right? Make it easy on yourself. It's important to understand. What it's a work group, you start thinking about the whole deal with, Bob Mosey's off somewhere. Maybe he's taking a nap and you can't get a hold of him. You have everybody together. You got some common areas to work, and you've got your own quarters to kind of retreat to and get a good night's rest right here in the Golden Triangle. So if you're bringing a work group to town instead of getting 5 hotel rooms, consider staying at the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. Now, when you Google, some booking options are going to appear. You're going to have Airbnb and VRBO. And if you want to go that route, more power to you. But if you want to save some money, go to the Evolve website and use promo code BSR10. That's BSR10, beautiful Steve Robertson, and the number's 10. Get you 10% off your stay. Very simple. We wanted to keep it simple. We made it simple. And the simple fact of the matter is that you're able to save some money just by listening to this show at the easiest, the best place to stay in the Golden Triangle. Just created a word there for you. Be sure and check it out today, the Stark Vegas Clubhouse, the best place to stay in the Golden Triangle. Let's take a little bit of a football inventory, if we can, together. It's not a big shock, but we're not scoring with the proficiency that we hoped. 27.4 points a game. We got to get better there. Right? And I don't know if it gets better next week when we're going and playing Georgia, one of the best teams in the country. We scored 137 points this year, allowed 158. I'm still upset about those points against Toledo. We've had 108 first downs. We've allowed 116. We've ran for 46. We've passed for 54. We've had 8 by way of penalty. On the ground, we've ran for 683 yards. Our opponents have run for 1,065 yards. Rushing defense was much better last week. It's got to continue to improve. Passing, we've thrown for 1,218 yards. We've allowed 1,125. And some of that's because of the fact we've had to trill in ball games and throw the football a little bit more. You'd like to have a little more balance, but of course, game management kind of dictates some of that stuff. We scored 18 touchdowns, allowed 20. 1,901 yards of offense. We've been outgained to 2,190, so just over, right at 200 yards on the year. Pretty crazy stuff. We're doing a good job in the return game, though. We're getting a lot of practice with that, though. Kind of how things work. Look at some individual numbers here, too. Individual numbers, obviously, some things are going to change with some injuries. But obviously, Blake Shapen's done for the year. And again, we got to get behind Michael Van Buren and Chris Parson now. We really got to. Those guys as a tandem could make us multiple and give us perhaps some weapons we didn't have with Blake. And that's not in any way to be critical of Blake, just the reality of things. But Johnny Daniels now. Guy didn't get a lot of reps early on. He has kind of worked his way into being your top running back. Played in all 5 games. He has 47 carries and now leads the team in 233 net yards, averaging 5 yards a carry. Just the 1 touchdown along of 18, averaging 46 yards a game. We need to get that closer to 100. Davin Booth has played extensively and has 7 more carries than than Daniels, but only 192 yards. He's averaging 3.6 yards a carry, just a couple touchdowns. Kevon Lee, of course, out for a little while. 29 carries for 140 yards. So right now, your leading ground gainer, Johnny Daniels. Probably not a big surprise. You've watched the games. You have seen Johnny Daniels kind of emerge as a guy that we've been able to count on a little bit. Passing numbers here, Blake Shapen, 74 of 108. Those numbers will not change. 8 touchdowns against the 1 pick, 974 yards. Was averaging 243.5 yards a game. Michael Van Buren has played in 3 games. And just the 1 start, of course, 19 of 36. No picks, 244 yards, no touchdowns. Averaging 81 yards a game. And, of course, some of that's coming in mopping up with late series. Chris Parson has attempted 2 passes and has yet to complete 1. But we're going to see a lot more of Chris as we kind of move forward here. Looking at receiving numbers. Kevin Coleman, the transfer. Leads the team with 28 catches, and it is not close. 28 catches, 344 yards, 3 touchdowns, leads us in every statistical category as a receiver. Mario Craver, 9 grabs for 238 yards, a couple touchdowns. Jordan Mosley, 13 for 202, a couple touchdowns for him. Seydou Traore, 13 grabs himself, 135 yards, has not found the end zone just yet. Kelly Akari missed the first week, and we kind of slowly got him back into things at Arizona State. He's good to go now. 9 catches for 124 yards. Need to get him in the end zone. Creed Whittemore is no longer part of our program, so there's no point in talking about it. Johnny Daniels, the leading receiver out of the backfield, 4 catches for 41 yards. Justin Ball, your number 2 tight end, 5 grabs for 38 yards. And so beyond that, it really, really, really gets it kind of gets to the point now you start thinking, okay, we've got to have some other guys step up here. But, I want to kind of go over team leaders because I just about guarantee you hadn't checked. And, of course, on the defensive side of the football, Isaac Smith leads the SEC and among the nation's leaders in tackles with 51 tackles. Didn't play last week. He'll be good to go for Georgia. Stone Blanton is second on the team. 5 games played with 41 tackles. And Stone, I thought, had a really good game against Texas. Brian Lanier, 31 tackles. 21 of those are the solo variety. You kind of like to see that. Nick Mitchell, a guy that has been a career special teams guy, has kind of been forced into the first team unit here. He's got 26 tackles, and I thought he had a really good game against Texas. Brandon Jennings, a junior college player. Again, we've got some people that are adverse to the junior college recruiting aspect of things. And you look up here and 2 of your top 5 tacklers, guess what? Come from the junior college ranks. Your leading rusher from the junior college ranks. So there is a place for junior college players within our recruiting strategy. Brandon Jennings with 22 tackles on the year, has a sack and a half to his credit, and also a quarterback hurry. Bryce Pollock with 21 tackles. Hunter Washington, the transfer from Florida State, with 21. Trevion Williams finally kind of coming into his own a little bit, being a little bit banged up early in the year, 18 tackles. John Lewis, a guy we sent to media day with just 15 tackles. Got to get John stepping up a little bit. J.P. Purvis, a guy that's been here forever with 14. Ty Cooper getting his most extensive action as a college player. Played in 5 games, has 13 tackles. Kelly Jones missed a game here a couple weeks ago. has played in 4 and made 13 tackles. Kyle McClendon, the true freshman, has now exhausted his opportunity to redshirt this year. Has played in 5 games, has 13 tackles. And again, this is a guy that this time last year we weren't even recruiting. Suleiman Paka, transfer from Purdue, 12 tackles. Ashawn Shepard, another junior college guy, kind of performing along with his contemporaries there with 12 tackles. Zachary Tillman got a start last week. Now has 11 tackles. Had a big ball game for State against Texas. I expect him to be a leader kind of going forward. Corey Ellington missed some time early on. Has played in 2 consecutive games. I thought he played well against Texas. 10 tackles for him. And beyond that, it just kind of gets into be, kind of whatever. There's so many guys that get hyped up to me. And then you look at the numbers, and there's a reason those guys were in the portal. And so I share that with you, kind of going over these numbers, because I think sometimes lost in the losing is the fact that there are some guys kind of quietly having good years, and maybe some names that you aren't quite as familiar with are carrying more of the weight than perhaps that we thought. I think it's important to acknowledge that. And again, you see it's a pretty good mix of the high school guys coming in and developing, the portal guys coming in and making an immediate contribution, and some junior college players. And, listen, Montez Sweat was a Power 5 bounce back. Jonathan Abram was a Power 5 bounce back. You're not going to find those guys very often anymore in the portal era, but occasionally you do find some. You find some D1 bounce backs out there. And so I share that with you because I think it's important to kind of look at things in their proper context. We can't get too caught up in high school recruiting, junior college recruiting, or portal recruiting. We have to do it all. At Mississippi State, we've got to be very measured in what we do and have a plan. We can't just go out there and throw an offer and say if it doesn't work out, we've got enough talent around him to kind of overcome perhaps his deficits. We've got to use every resource available to us, and that includes the junior college system. And we have a very good one here in Mississippi. And of course, we've already gotten a couple big-time commitments. 4 of the top 10 players in the junior college ranks, as rated by 247 Sports, are committed to Mississippi State. And we're still out there working. All right, let's talk a little bit about this soccer game tonight. I will be out there covering this Mississippi State host number 1 Arkansas, the most prolific goal-scoring team in the country with 48 goals. Mississippi State has allowed just 2 goals this year. So something's got to give. We had a chance to speak to James Armstrong yesterday to have him preview the matchup. And he goes, hey, we're just approaching this like any game week. We're a big-time team too, right? We're ranked 6th in one poll, 7th in another, 5th in RPI. So it's not like people are just coming to watch Arkansas, right? That's an important aspect of this, right? We've got an opportunity to do something historic tonight. Now, we beat Arkansas last time they came to Starkville in 2022. They beat us twice last year, once in a regular season and then in the SEC tournament. So I'm sure they're confident about the matchup. Now, the university is doing a lot to kind of prepare for a big crowd. They've done some interesting things. They've done some things that are probably worth noting. I think that's an important aspect of this. To encourage you to come out and be a part of what we expect to be a record crowd. Now, I don't know if you're aware of this, but there will be pink pom-poms given away. It's October, so it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And we do love the breast. We don't want them to be damaged in any way whatsoever. And also ribbons will be given away. Free T-shirts for the first 600 students. So if you're a student thinking about, hey, what do I do before Bulldog Bash? Well, you come cheer for the Bulldogs on the pitch. There'll be free ice cream for the first 250 kids, 12 and under. I don't know if they're checking ID, but I'm going to see if I can't get some Muscadine Ripple. And then free Chick-fil-A for the first 200 fans. That's an important aspect of it too, right? Free food, free admission, and could be a night that we don't forget when it comes to Mississippi State soccer. I'm very proud of this group. We've committed some coverage to them. I'm doing it myself as a former player. I feel like I would probably have a little more game knowledge than most. And that's one of the things that Coach Armstrong said last night. You don't have to understand pace of play or product of play or anything like that. We just want you to come ring your cowbell, and you can ring it responsibly. We're outside, right? And so, 2,000 fans ringing cowbells will sound like 10,000. You know what I'm saying? You're not just there to be entertained. You're there to be part of the event. And we've got a real chance to win this game. And as James says, too, it's a chance for us to kind of measure to see where we are. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about a regular season game. It's about playing your best soccer at the end of the year. That's an important aspect of this thing, too. Learn from this and be better from this, win or lose. But I don't think it's a situation where anybody's going to give up on this team. Went to the Sweet 16 last year, played head-to-head with Stanford. Probably not our best start, but we played them, kind of woman to woman the rest of the way. And so I encourage you to come out tonight. Again, the university really, really, really doing a good job promoting this event. Soccer is relevant now at Mississippi State. We've had some very talented athletes over the years and not always had the resources to compete at a high level. I think some of that goes back to us building the clubhouse for soccer to show a real financial commitment to facilities, because other times that recruits would go visit their places and find out that they were more committed than we are. One of the best things about Mississippi State's our people. And there are a lot of people that are kind of keeping up with us, not because they're a soccer fan, but because they're a Mississippi State fan. And anybody that wears the maroon and white, we feel an obligation to support them. And the best way to do that is to turn out at the Mississippi State Soccer Complex this evening. Matter of fact, I'll be heading over there in a few hours, and I will begin to kind of get our work together and prepare for what could be an historic night. Mississippi State has never hosted a number one team. We went to Oklahoma. They had a big crowd, and they kind of hyped it up as their first SEC game. We were able to go get a win out there. And, of course, Texas came in here. They were nationally ranked. We beat them. And so I encourage you to come out. We'll have full coverage, and if you can't make it, the game will be broadcast on the SEC network. If it's not available in your area, you can get it on the ESPN app. You can stream it yourself. And again, you don't have to understand how the game is played. You know this, the team that puts the ball in the net the most wins. And we've got to be very good defensively. This is an Arkansas team that scores in bunches. They beat Northwestern State 10-0 earlier this year, beat Missouri 8-2. Missouri's only won 3 games this year, but that's still a Southeastern Conference opponent, so there should be a comparable level of talent. But I think Arkansas has been so good in recent years, and Coach Armstrong kind of said as much yesterday, some teams get intimidated. I don't think we're going to be intimidated. I believe our ladies believe that they can and will win the game, and we're going to come out and play with that in mind. Yesterday we had an opportunity on the women's basketball side to interview several players and Coach Purcell. He spoke to the media. Dave Murray and Jacob Bain were there to help cover that. Victoria Vivian spoke. I know many of you are excited to have her back in Starkville. Of course, she's still going through her pro career, but in the offseason, she's coaching here at Mississippi State. I'll go over a few comments from you. Jacob Bain doing a good job for us right out of the gate already. On the basketball side of things. That was one of the things we felt like we needed to kind of bulk up our coverage, especially on the women's side. We did a ton of coverage last year on the road. Probably won't do as much this year, but we will be covering basketball more extensively on the recruiting side. So one of the first questions that he was asked was about, just give us an overview of your team. How do you feel about your team? Well, I'm an excited coach. First and foremost, this is year 3, and wow, how fast. But most importantly, I look at this team. We put them together with a vision early in the season. You're hungry to achieve that vision. I'm excited about the success this team can have. And that's going to be the real issue, right? It's like at the end of the day, we have found that we love Mississippi State basketball on the men's and the women's side. I do expect the men to be good. I think there are a lot of question marks about this women's team, and it's just kind of putting them together. And I think the hiring of Victoria Vivians was huge for Mississippi State. She was here through our glory days. She understands what it takes to compete and win in the Southeastern Conference and win on the national level. So he was asked about hiring Victoria. Purcell says it was a no-brainer. She's a connector in many ways, especially with young people, and what great recruiting opportunities for me. When I call, they know she's on staff. She's a great connector with the young ladies on the team, and we talk about playing for championships and the tournament runs. She's done that. But she's also a great connector for life. She's a great person. The first thing people told me is her nickname was the Queen. That's true. Absolutely true. And so kind of going deeper into that hiring decision, I asked him, well, how did you get it done? He's like, well, I'm a good recruiter. Like I said, I'm no dummy. She's on our banners, and I've always been a fan. Here's a story I haven't shared. I actually recruited her at Louisville. Obviously, we didn't connect then, but it's funny how life works, and we're able to connect now. I called her, and I just said, hey, listen, I know where you are in your career, and you have plenty of years left, but eventually the ball stops bouncing. I told her, I see a rising star. I wanted to give back to my young women. But just like my mentors did for me, I want to give back to you. Because at some point eventually, and I have a lot of years ahead of me, I will stop coaching. She will be that next generation of stars, and I'm glad she was able to return to her alma mater and give back. And you begin to ask the question, too, does this kind of put Victoria Vivians in a situation where she could potentially be the coach in waiting? Now, you've got to learn a little bit about the recruiting aspect of it, right? But you start beginning to see that maybe this puts Mississippi State in a good position if and when Sam Purcell leaves Mississippi State. Victoria Vivians, I don't believe, would leave for another SEC program. And so I don't know what her positioning will be on the staff this year, but it will be a very big learning opportunity for her, and it should be good for something on the recruiting trail for Mississippi State because she is a name that people know. She has played at an extremely high level, and she's worn the uniform. There are a lot of people out that show up in a new place. They don't understand, what to expect. It's just like Chad Bumpus, right, on the football side. Chad knows what it takes to recruit and to compete wearing the maroon and white and achieve a level of success in the Southeastern Conference. Victoria Vivians has that same level of credibility, if perhaps not more, because she's played for national championships at Mississippi State. And I think it's one of those things, too, because she understands the culture that was in place then. And she can explain to these ladies, hey, ladies, this is what it takes. This is what you have to do in order to beat South Carolina. This is what you have to do in order to beat Baylor or beat UConn. Mississippi State was a feared team. And I remember, I think it was Brian Haydad that said when we were just rolling through the SEC schedule, he goes, this is what it must feel like to be an Alabama football fan. And we expected to win every time we took the court. Expectation's a big thing. A lot of people talk about competing for championships, and they've never truly done it. Victoria Vivians has. She has that credibility within the room. That's important to understand. I mean, how many of us out there and say, hey, it must be difficult? She's lived it. And she can motivate and encourage other players to kind of follow in that same model that we had when we were one of the best teams in the country. That's an important aspect of this. Everybody talks about championships, but very few people win them. A lot of people talk about we're going to do this and we're going to do that. You think, well, you've never done it before. Why should we believe you now? There are a lot of people that talk a good game but can't coach or play a good game. Victoria Vivians was one heck of a basketball player here, and I believe she'll be a good coach too. And she's one of Mississippi's own. That makes a big difference too. She's our homecoming queen. Maybe you've forgotten. This is huge. Probably one of the most important decisions that Sam Purcell has made as the head coach at Mississippi State, getting Victoria Vivians back. And it also brings in some engagement from many of you, fans who were like, hey, I remember, wasn't that terribly long ago, but I remember what it felt like to have her involved with our program. She elevated our expectations. And yes, she was a volume shooter very early in her career and certainly in high school. But she came here and we kind of built some classes around her. People wanted to play with Victoria Vivians. And you don't think she's learned a lot more about X's and O's since she's been a pro player? Well, she certainly has. And those are the things that are important to recognize. As great as she was, she's even better now. And she can impart that wisdom to our young ladies. And we're going to be playing basketball sooner than later. And again, I got 11 days out, I guess. We'll speak to Chris Jans. And again, as challenging as football season has been, there are some things to get excited about. And we talk about the soccer thing, and I know that doesn't draw the same eyeballs. The men's side, I think we're going to be a really good team. And I don't care where we're picked. I think we're going to be a really good team. I think anybody that comes to Humphrey Coliseum better bring a good attitude. because we're going to have the opportunity, I think, to beat some teams that probably are coming in here expecting to get a W. It's a tough place to play. I think we have a roster to make it even more difficult, and we'll see what happens on the women's side. Then we'll get into baseball, and I'll be covering the baseball scrimmage on Sunday. Mike Nemeth has the weekend off, but we've covered every scrimmage, and so there's a lot of this too. You begin to kind of think about, things kind of coming together, right? We look back at last year. We talk about, we had to make another coaching change. We had a losing season, saw the bowl streak snapped. The men made the tournament, lost in the first round. The ladies didn't make the tournament. Baseball did get back in the postseason, and we were a road regional as we kind of projected beginning of the year. But we're hungry for more, and it's okay to expect more. I don't think we always have to look at this and say, hey, we're just poor old Mississippi State. I think that mentality is what holds us back. Because there's a lot of people out there that think I'm not going to get financially just because of the fact that we're going to get what we've always got, and I'm not going to make a bigger investment. And along those lines too, and I don't know if you've heard the Out of Left Field podcast with Bart and Charlie from yesterday. Zach Selman was their guest. Now the big focus now is going to be the revenue sharing model. It's going to be the Mississippi State Bulldog Excellence Program. And so you're going to see some changes, and you're going to be able to make donations through the Bulldog Club that will kind of trickle down to the Excellence Program, and they're going to be tax deductible. A lot of the NIL stuff now is not. That's important to understand. So they're going to make it easier to give, and for those of you that do give, thank you so much. And those of you that are on the fence, maybe you need a tax write-off, you're going to be able to get that. And so that's an important aspect of this. If this is how things have to be, they've got to make it more conducive for people to be able to give. And so we encourage you to do that. But for those of you that can't, your contributions to Mississippi State are valuable even if you can't give much financially. And that's being positive on social media. That's, being a genespage.com member and coming over there joining the discussion. And certainly, wearing the merchandise. And, I shared this and some people commented on this. I had some people message me and said, you know what, Steve, I'm retired now. I'm on a fixed income. Really, all I can do is just kind of be a positive voice on social media, and you know what? That's important too. That's important too. I mean, it's about giving what you can, not necessarily giving what everybody else does. There's some people out there that are currently in a much better situation financially than the rest of us. They can afford to give more, and we're very grateful that they do. But there are other people out there that simply don't have it to give. And there's some that have it and just don't give it, right? And that's frustrating. But, we all can play a part in this and kind of moving Mississippi State forward. One of the things that I get a little envious of at times, I look around here, some schools out there, if a former player comes out and says something detrimental to the program, everybody kind of locks arms and say, hey, that guy doesn't speak for us. And we have a tendency at times too, if a negative story gets out about Mississippi State, we got a segment of our fan base that can't wait to amplify that story and say, see, I told you so. Well, congratulations. You're also being detrimental to what we're trying to get done. I think dialogue is important. And sometimes negative feedback is the most important feedback you get. It's true. We're not always going to get everything we want. But it's important to be able to vocalize and verbalize that. And we have that sometimes happens at GeneSpace. Somebody say, hey, this was not a good experience, and here's everything that happened. And then immediately somebody's like, hey, let's not be negative. Look, I understand that aspect of it, but we can't fix it if we don't acknowledge it. I can't help you fix a problem until I know that you have a problem. And so it's important to share that information. But more importantly, too, when things are going well, it's a lot easier to kind of get out there and be a rah-rah guy. It is. And we can call it for what it is, and our allegiance to Mississippi State remain intact. But at times like these on the football side, when things maybe aren't going as well as we wanted, rather than just kind of throw our hands up in the air and pretend to be Ole Miss fans, and what I mean by that is kind of doing their job for them, running down Mississippi State, sometimes it's good just to be kind of quiet, right? Your mom told you that if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything, right? At least not constructive, because negative feedback at times can be constructive. Going out there advocating to fire coaches and fire administrators and that kind of stuff, that is not advantageous to Mississippi State. Not to mention, too, even though we're shareholders in that, there's a board of directors in many respects that make those decisions. and you can voice those concerns to them. There's a lot of things that I see at times that I think could use improvement. And I can tell you, Zach Selman has been very receptive to me. I'll say, Zach, I don't know if you know, but we've traditionally done this, or this is something that I've seen somewhere else on the road. It doesn't mean that he adopts my idea, but he is willing to listen. And he shared with me recently that he's had some dialogue with some fans, just kind of, hey, why do you feel the way you do? And we do these post-game surveys, and that stuff's not just going in file 13. They're paying attention to that. And sometimes, when you've got an operation this big, it takes a lot of planning to kind of move and change things. But I can tell you that everybody that I know in Lee Hall and in the Bryan building care about you, and they're receptive to what you guys think. And again, we're never going to please everybody, but I think it's important we all pull in the same direction. And perhaps this Excellence Fund will be something that we can all kind of agree on and support. And I encourage you to kind of do some research on that and see perhaps if you can give. Some things are going to change, and I think they're changing for the better. I can tell you a lot of people have told me that we're going to be more competitive in the football transfer portal market from an NIL standpoint than we've ever been. And many of you are to be commended for your contributions. But again, all of us can do something. And so that's going to do it for today. I'm going to get out of here. If you hadn't done so, go to dudeynoblebook.com, and you can order The Dude. Be out later this month. Everything on ordered through the website will be signed for what that's worth. All my sports titles are there as well, in addition to When the Bottom Falls. And come float with us. You'll be glad you did. I mean, you've got enough going on in your life. And I had a discussion just yesterday. Somebody said, hey, I saw you over by Dollar General the other day. I said, well, yeah, I'm right next door. I said, yeah, you went to that spa. I said, yeah, we own that. And we need you to come float. And she goes, well, how's it different than me floating in my bathtub or my swimming pool? Well, it's different because you're in 1,200 pounds of magnesium-infused Epsom salt. You're in an enclosed environment. You don't have to be. You can leave the doors open. But you're giving your mind a chance to rest, right? Giving your body a chance to rest and kind of reset itself. And I think everybody deserves that. It's been a game changer for me. Nothing has been better for my anxiety in my life than floating. And if you're a person that deals with chronic pain or perhaps anxiety, or maybe you just need to take a break, or maybe you need to buy a gift card, right, to give somebody else a break. We have a lot of that too. A lot of people say, hey, I think so-and-so needs to come. They've been out of work, or they've had this problem, or recently have gone through a divorce or a death in the family. I just want them to get a bit of a break and kind of let their mind rest a little bit. And you can do that too. You can order a package, or you can just order a gift card. Go to TrueRest.com and learn more information. But better yet, call Dana, 662-268-7601. Let's get out of here. Hope you guys have a great weekend. And again, hoping for a historic weekend on the pitch as Mississippi State takes on number 1 Arkansas. Until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.